Hey everybody, this is Dan Bonham. Welcome to our very first Immaculata Marching Band replay. I am joined today by two superstars in the Immaculata history. Helping me today, we're going to be talking about the 2000 Marching Band show, Time and Celebration. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Dan Bonham. I've been part of the drums team and the design team at IHS since 1986, and I'm still around there. And maybe we can pass it around to Ed Doscher and to Donna to introduce themselves before we get started. So Donna, why don't you take it away?
Hi, my name is Donna Cardineo. I was band director at the time in 2000. I think it was my fourth year there. And I was there for 8 years till about 2004, 2005, and had a blast and had a great time working with everyone, great staff, great kids, great administration. It was a joy.
Awesome. And Eddie?
Hey, I'm Ed Doscher. You all know me. I started at Immaculata around 1988 or so, 87 or 88. And I worked all the way to, I'm not sure when, in the late 2016, 17, around that area. Color guard, caption head, and also a big contributor to the visual design of the show.
Cool. And so that's what we're going to talk about today, is just how we all put together the 2002 show. So the music was based on Disney's Millennium Celebration, which, as Don and Ed and I were talking last time, there used to be a CD that you could actually buy with Millennium Celebration. That's one of the ways that we kind of got ourselves all turned on to the music, which I don't even think you can find anymore. But anyway, so that music was music that Disney used for their Illuminations fireworks show at Epcot. Started way back in late 1999 and lasted for about 20 years until they finally retired it. And so thinking about the way we discovered this show, we talked to one of the guys who's a part of the drum staff, Kevin McKeever, who's been a longtime member and a previous marching member of the Immaculata Band. He reminded us that we actually heard this music for the first time on ABC's broadcast on New Year's Eve going from 1999 to 2000. And he said the whole staff was like calling each other, like, what is this music? It sounds so cool. We got to figure out what this is. You know, we had no idea it was part of Disney music at the time.
Live from around the world, a celebration of the millennium. This is ABC 2000.
And, we all started listening to it and started to fall in love with it and started to build a marching band show around it. So maybe Donna, Ed, maybe tell us a bit about the first time you heard the music and some of the thoughts you had and what made you think it was going to be a great marching band show.
I first heard it not till January. After that, Nancy had said something to me and said, oh, you have to really listen to this. So that's when I went out and bought the CD. But of course, me being the band director had other duties other than, I know, shocker, other than marching band. So the staff usually would get together and would like to start planning the following show the Monday after championships, or sometimes in the parking lot after we had performed.
Or before the year was over.
Yes.
Before championships sometimes.
Yeah. So I didn't hear the music until January, wanting to get through, of course, the Christmas concert and all of that. But yeah, they fell in love with it and said, oh my gosh, you have to listen to X and such. And it was really, really, I think the hardest part was picking what music to use, because the entire CD was just great.
Yeah, I think the whole CD is about 40 minutes. And if you take a look at some of those chunks, like there's probably another good, at least 8 to 10, if not 15 minutes, you could make a whole show around. There's such great content in there. Mm-hmm. It's actually kind of funny. So we did the show for the first time, and we called it Time and Celebration in 2000. But the band's actually had a lot of success with this. The first year we ever did indoor drumline at Immaculata, we used this music back in 2010. And then we had actually just used it again this past marching band season, 2020. So I think we're kind of on a cycle of every decade or so trying to use this music because it is such great material. Ed, how about you? What jumped out to you with the music as you re-listened?
Well, I think the best thing about it is it's really orchestrated wonderfully. So it has a lot of real highs and lows, and it's very lush, and as a color guard staff, we always look for a ballad that has a lot of beauty in it and a lot of just wonderful music. And certainly a lot of that music from Illuminations had that. So it really fit our needs.
Well, and it's funny because I guess the original source material that's at least used for Illuminations is all that orchestral type of stuff.
Yes.
But then if you keep going deeper into the CD, there's actually 2 beautiful ballads that are based on some of the music from Illuminations. You know, so touching lyrics, memorable lyrics kind of thing. So I remember that during championships week, we had posters printed out of the lyrics of them, and just try to inspire the kids and get them all fired up as we were moving along. So that music is so great.
Oh, all of it.
The other funny thing about that year was, so that was going after our 99 season, going into the 2000 season, so we had picked that music, which was also the same year that the Cadets had done that same exact show.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of funny because a lot of people think like, oh, you stole the Cadet show, but we had no idea that they were playing the same exact thing. You get to the summer, the Cadets for the first time, you're like, wait a minute, that's our music.
Yeah, because we were playing it since December, right? So they didn't announce what they're doing until May.
Right.
Well, and that's right. Like that's back in the days before there was big announcements on the internet.
Yeah, so we were like, whoa.
Yes.
Yeah,
way before any of this technology.
Right. And then so as we think about the show, one of the things I was struck by is it's kind of in 3 big chunks, right? So there's that clock, chaos, chicken sandwich thing, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. Then there's this mammothly long drum solo that actually used to be even longer than it was. And then there's the whole ballad. The one thing that I laughed at with that drum solo is I totally forgot from talking to some of the staff members is that drum solo was too long watching it now. And we actually cut a lot out of it. So there was all kinds of shenanigans with bringing these stools out for the bass drums to play their bass drum feature. We had some silly stuff in there where like a color guard member was stealing one of the drumsticks of the soloists. So it's funny to see what the final product was versus what we were designing way back when. Because after seeing the Cadets over the summer, like they did such a great job of trying to make it a really fun show, especially that drum solo, all that anything you can do, I can do better, back and forth kind of stuff. So we tried to borrow some inspiration from them, and probably better for us, we kind of cut a little bit of it out because we bit off a little bit more than we could chew, I think. Ed, do you want to talk about some of the color design and some of the clock themes?
Sure. So obviously time and celebration, and the thought process around a lot of the visual happens when the color guard staff kind of goes away on a field trip, I'll say. So usually we travel to one of the WGI regionals up in Salem, Massachusetts. So it's a good time because we're all captured in the same car, and we listen to the music and we start to throw around ideas about things. And that's kind of how we came up with the concept of the clocks. And Michael Levito, who was, a guru as far as putting all our colors and costuming and flag designs together, he was the one that really had the idea of using the 3 different faces of the clocks, and each of the faces of the clocks, as it was unveiled, would show the colors of the clocks, which would then be revealed by the colors of the flags that they were using at that particular moment. So like the first clock, opened up and it matched those flags. And when the second clock opened it up, it was all the pink and magenta flags. And then at the ending, when the last clock opened up for the ballad, it really revealed all of those big, beautiful, bright colors. Mm-hmm. So that's really how we come across our process of the color and design part of the show. And, we remember thinking of, well, how the heck are we going to make these clocks? You can't, band dads are like, well, we can't make it out of wood because you can't make wood round. And so then one of them came up with the idea of buying trampolines. So that's what they did. They bought 3 trampolines, and Mrs. Cody and Mrs. Conroy.
Yeah.
We kind of let them go with the design of it. This is the colors we want, and they sewed elastic around the edge. They love a project, just like the band dads love a project.
The crafts,
yes. So they really worked on getting that all together for us. And those band dads always do, a great job at really putting together whatever we need to do.
Sure. Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to Mrs. Cody about it, and she was saying how she and Mrs. Conroy were just in the chorus room, sprawled out on the floor, painting all these props, and kids would be coming through for school, and they're like, just get out of the way, we're painting the props.
Right.
It's funny to think about that. And I also had the opportunity to talk to Sister Dolores, who was the longtime director of music at Immaculata for 4 decades. And she remembered the same exact kind of thing, just all the work that goes into the show. She didn't think too much about the show and like the performance or the ballad or the drum solo, but she's like, all the memories about the show and those kind of specifics about the work that the entire team puts in. Like you said, the dads, the moms, the kids, the staff. It's a heck of a lot of work.
funny
And
too
then-
that when we talked about the look of the band, right? And we knew that we had to be getting uniforms soon because those uniforms have been around since like
forever.
you know, buttons were always falling off and there were strings hanging off of them. So, you know, we went to Sister Dolores and we said, well, you know, we really think we have to look into getting new uniforms in the near future. Maybe we could do it as a two-step process, you know? So that's when I'm not sure who came up with the idea of doing it. Well, let's add gauntlets and let's get helmets. So it's not a big expenditure immediately. So that was kind of that was why this year we had that new look. We had the white gauntlets and we had the helmets. And of course, coming along with the helmets was, well, how are we going to get the helmets to shows? So there's another project for the dads. You have to make those big
Hot box.
white bins, the white boxes. All the helmets fit in and they were all numbered and, you know. But Sister Dolores was always great at figuring out if we needed to get things done, how to be able to fundraise for the resources or tap into some alumni that were parents and kids that were always willing to contribute to the program. And we were very rarely denied anything that we ever needed to make the band successful. And that, you know, she used to do that with the color guard uniforms too. You know, all these other color guards in the country, they get a new uniform every year. And we weren't at that budget-wise, you know. So what we would do is we would get a new uniform every other year, but we'd figure out a way to make it look different on the second.
Right.
Adding a collar to it or adding something to the sleeves or, you know, and so that way we were able to work, you know, maintain a budget we could work with. And another thing that we did, which no other band in the country did, well, not no other band, but our moms would make all the flags.
Yeah.
So the cost of material for the flags would be all that we would have to budget for, and then the moms would do everything. And I know I had friends, you would hear people talking in the hall, and they'd be like, oh, Immaculata, they have so much money. Look at all the
I know.
The custom-made flags.
I knew, I'd be like, no, the moms make it all summer long. You know, that's how we were able to get what we had.
Didn't you used to go into New York City to the garment district to get all the material and stuff like that?
Well, special stuff.
Yes.
Special stuff we would go. We found a company where then we realized we could just have a color chart and we could order stuff by the yard. So that ended up
Much
being
cheaper,
expensive.
yes.
But we would go to the city sometimes, and Michael had a woman in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania he would go to, some crazy old lady. And he would go and sit in her living room and she would show him all these fabrics and all this stuff. But, you know, like he would get some really great stuff from her.
I just always got a kick out of like being there at a Tuesday rehearsal or a rehearsal early in the season. And like Ed's sweatshop would just be in the chorus room set up like 8 moms with sewing machines. One's cutting, one's sewing them together. Someone's taking the other panel from here.
The assembly line. The whole thing was an assembly line.
Because, you know, people the moms that couldn't sew, they could at least cut.
Yep.
Or pin, yes. Cut and pin. Yes.
It's funny that you talked about the hats and gauntlets because the one thing I noticed when I rewatched the video was just those darn white shoes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Sister would not let us change the shoes yet.
Yep.
She really wanted those white shoes, and that was the one thing she didn't budge on.
Yep.
Well, in the next podcast, when we talk about the new uniforms,
Exactly. So
that's a very interesting conversation. And she ended up realizing, you know, that for the good of the group, that's what we needed to make that move, you know. But, you know, something about she loved the shoe. She said it always looked so great coming down the street, you know. But the bad thing is when you're in a competitive environment, it doesn't look so great if the feet are all out of time and stuff like that. So.
Well, and I think those old uniforms we probably had for about 20 years because she got them pretty early on in her tenure, 84.
The early 80s, yeah.
Yeah, so we finally got rid of them in 05 before we got the new uniforms. And we keep saying new uniforms, but now they're 15 years old.
Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. What else? Oh, the other thing that was funny looking back on that is just how we used to rehearse back in those days.
Oh. Activity period.
Yeah. So there was a whole bunch of things. There was
Period.
activity period, the Y field. So Donna,
Yep.
can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Oh my gosh. Activity period used to be on Tuesday mornings, usually probably like 7:10 to about 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And the marching band would, for September, October, beginning of November, we would take that time and go outside and say, okay, 45 minutes, we're going to work on this chunk of the drill. And rain, snow, sleet, or hail, the kids would put their sneakers on and we'd go outside, we'd do a quick warm up, rehearse, or sometimes we would track around the school during activity period. All the kids would hang out the windows and listen to us go all around the school. That was very interesting.
And also, if there was like a drill change that needed to be made,
Yes.
sometimes Carl would come in and he would work 3 pages of new drill with the kids or something.
Yep.
So they had at least learned it in the morning.
Yep.
Exactly. And,
Yep.
we just took advantage of all the time that we had. And because I don't think we had the 4-hour chunks that we have
Yeah,
today.
No.
And then maybe once every 2 weeks or so, we would play during class. And then after class, we'd have to stop 10 minutes early so we could load the bus. And, everybody that was in marching band at the time, they'd load up their marching band instruments on the bus. And then that afternoon, the kids would walk to the Y field. Staff would meet us whenever they could. And of course, that was right after school. So you're talking rehearsal started around 3:15, 3:30 and went to, of course, we had to get back. So we could only go till 5 o'clock until the sun, till we lost daylight, which would put us even earlier.
Yeah,
But again, we did that so that just in case something happened at our field at the high school, that we would always have someplace to rehearse. So, but the problem with the Y field was number one, getting there, and equipment, mainly pit.
Yeah.
So sometimes, we had pit players, 2 per keyboard. We couldn't lug down any of the heavier stuff because the kids had to pack everything because we had no dads in the afternoon. And, after a while it was like, okay, winds and color guard will go to the Y field and the pit and battery would stay back. And we would do, if it was a drill change or something like that, or just marching, so we utilized a lot of time.
Yeah, it's funny to think how we ever were able to accomplish anything with,
Oh, I know.
Over there, 3 staff members there for the first hour of rehearsal and maybe
Yep.
a couple more afterwards. So,
Yeah.
and half the staff was blowing out of work early to try to get to rehearsals.
and
So funny.
the people that work for the YMCA, every year they line the field wrong.
Yes.
So our first day there, we would always have to reline the field because they'd always be going on some crazy angle or something.
Yeah. And the hash marks were never where they had to be.
Hash marks were never there. And
Then the sword drain right in the middle.
Right in the 50-yard line. Yep.
Yes. The sword drain.
in the
yes.
back of the field where the color guard always had to go, there was always like dead rats and stuff like that too. But that was always like not a nice thing.
No, not at all.
No.
Muddy. It was always muddy back there because the river overflowed.
Yeah.
I was also checking out all the different shows that we did that year, and I was noticing there were a ton of Sunday shows.
Yes.
I guess was still pretty normal because not everybody had turf fields and lights at that point. So,
Correct.
we had done day shows at, I think it was Edison, Franklin. We were still doing the Trenton State College show.
Yes.
TC
I always
had-
love that stadium. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorite
that's really
stadiums to play in.
That was always a hype, right? Because we were going
Yes.
on. It was getting dusk, so the lights were coming on. And it was actually AstroTurf, like you were bouncing on the turf. It
Yeah.
was-
That and Rutgers. Rutgers is a great play.
Yep.
Rutgers is a great musical stadium.
Mm.
It's the acoustics in there. They make the band sound huge.
But one of our favorite shows that year is we did a Saturday night show at North Warren.
Oh.
So it was night show, so it was dark, and for whatever reason, the fog was rolling.
Fog
in.
would come in.
I don't even know if the drum majors could see the kids on the back hash or whatever
Yeah.
it was. But one of my favorite parts of that night is we had these bass drums for the side-to-side
The
trade-off thing.
sidelines, yes.
5 of the pit played it on one side, the 5 cymbal played it on the other side, probably on the 40-yard line or so. And we didn't realize until as they were about to play it that we forgot to set up the bass drum mallets for the cymbals.
Yes.
So Donna sees it, recognizes it. The pit plays their digga digga dum thing, and then we're waiting to hear the other side go, and Donna just goes digga digga dum and starts singing the parts. Which, you know, if there was ever a penalty to be given out by CNBC or US bands or whatever, USSBA, whatever they were back in the day, we
Well, you have to do what you got to do, you know.
yeah. Now you're officially drum staff now.
Yeah. See.
Nobody realized it, right?
Nope, not a thing, not a one.
No. Kept us in time, though.
Yep.
All about it.
And then, so the other crazy thing about that whole year is, you know, as we were picking the music, we didn't realize it was Disney until later, but it was also a Disney trip year for the band.
Yes.
So the band would go on a trip every other year, and every other trip would be a Disney trip. Other times we'd go like Virginia and Canada, all kinds of places, but it just worked out so cool that it turned out that we were going to Disney on the same exact year that we performed that show. And
Yes.
Don, I remember you had a really funny story about when we got together and watched the fireworks.
Oh, the illuminations. Yes, the fireworks. We had been in Epcot all day, and we're grouping in Mexico at the time to watch the illuminations, about 8:30 or so. So we're standing there, and the kids were getting all together, and I had some of the drum line and color guard standing behind me, and it was Jim Marshall. I'll never forget. Cute as a button, tall though. And so they started the music, and the kids were like, you know, the head started, you know, tilting and everything. And when they actually started the show and everything, the kids were like, oh my gosh. And Jim Marshall, standing right behind me, says, hey, Mrs. C, they're playing our music. It was the best. It was the best. And I said, yeah, how did they get our music? Oh my gosh. And they have a whole show to it too.
They must have seen our show. Yeah.
Yes. So they really thought, you know, and then all of a sudden everybody starts playing their parts, and the color guard starts doing their air routines and everything. It was one of the highlights of the year. To cap off the whole Millennium Celebration, but it was great. It was great.
Yeah, Sister Dolores said the same exact thing. Just so much fun being in that energy, and I guess like the whole Immaculata community was there. So the parents, the kids, and they were all just going crazy and singing along to the music as the show's going on. So really, really cool. Awesome, guys. Any other thoughts? Favorite moment of the show to share? Any other funny stories from the year?
Oh, wow.
Well, looking back and watching the show this week, I really was surprised at how much I really enjoyed watching it. And I think it was a really fun year. The staff got along, the kids were great.
Yes.
The parents were fun to work with. You know, we had a lot of great memories out of that year. Yeah. Great. The show was great. I mean, the show produced the chicken sandwich song.
Yes. Stephanie Marsicano. Yep.
I thought that, to me, when I watched the show this week, I thought one of the most beautiful parts was the very ending, where the band had the big hit and the color guard opened up these big LeMay flags, and just reminded me of like the fireworks at Disney.
Yeah, they were in that big V. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's great.
That was a really impactful part of the show. And I feel like it was a great production. And we had really turned the corner as a design team in figuring out how to package a show, how to connect pieces of the show and make it one giant moment rather than 5 different songs.
Right.
I
think it was just a year that everything clicked. And like you said, it was a great staff. We had great kids, and it was a fast season. Yeah. You know, we did a lot of performances. We had a lot of rehearsals, but it was never, ever a drag because the kids loved it. You know, the parents were fabulous. And everything just really, really clicked that year. It was just fabulous.
I think
my favorite part was the beginning. You know, I think we were at the Y field when we told the kids, okay, we need to do clock movements. And trying to have the kids decide what they're going to do was like pulling teeth. But once they got it, then they were like, oh, okay. And I think that's when they really started buying into, I think it was almost a pre-show, before the pre-show actually happened. So, but it was a great season.
Well, and that's back in the day of like trying to teach, 20 years ago, back in 2000, trying to teach a kid to do body. Like that was like the most unique idea of all time. And, now if you don't have 30% of body in your show, then you're
exactly
ulceries kind of thing. Eddie, I like that you brought back up the chicken sandwich thing, because as we were talking about our show this year, when we performed it again in 2020 for Immaculata, we kept calling it chicken sandwich. And kids were like, what is this chicken sandwich thing? Like nobody knew what it was. And it's just such a dopey, goofy inside story about Stephanie Marsicano, who was in the pit. Her mother had brought up, I don't know, a couple dozen nice chicken sandwiches for everybody, for the staff for dinner one night. And I don't know how it happened, but somebody just started singing to the 7/8 part of
I believe it was Ed.
Was it Ed?
I've got a chicken sandwich. Yes, you started.
Well, either way, it's funny. So we still call it chicken sandwich at Immaculata, and everyone's like, what is this chicken sandwich? Like, oh gosh. So that always cracks me up, and it's funny that it's still part of our lexicon 20 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining, guys. It was a blast to do this first one.
Thank you. This is fabulous.
We might have to bring you back for some other ones. Don, I know you had a nice long run there with us, so there's some other great shows in there, like the Lion King show was a lot of fun.
Lion King show, yeah.
Donna's tenure had a lot of cool shows.
Yes.
King Arthur.
A lot of cool shows.
Yep.
Yes.
Civil War.
Yeah.
A lot of really cool shows.
My first one, yeah.
Yeah. Good. So we'll sign you guys up for some more at some point in the future.
Definitely.
All right, guys. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you. I'll see ya.